This week's overseas vacation in the Integrity OCTANE Series was scheduled for about 2 weeks ago. As you can tell, on the 10th of June, that is not what happened. We had a little bit of a trouble getting ourselves ready to go racing in Japan, had to settle for a night in Pennsylvania and regroup. Luckily, everything worked out and we were able to pack our bags once again and bring to you the 17th race of the 2025 Octane Series season as intended. Welcome from Tochigi, Japan to the Twin Ring Motegi for a 125-lap feature and our very first outside of the United States for the 2025 Octane campaign. Ethan Lane leads the championship now by 34 points as we are heading toward our all-star vacation and the summer break that is ahead of us. However, everything from second on down is still a close battle for position, and it could be pivotal tonight what happens as we come toward the close of our regular season. I'll be your host for tonight's broadcast. I'm David Croyds, commentating and producing. Welcome back live on FTN for coverage of our final race before we go toward our summer break. The Twin Ring Motegi, a circuit we have visited before multiple times with the Integrity Racing League, and of course, no surprise for the field to be back here once again. Currently qualifying sees Ethan Lane on the provisional pole position by about a tenth and a half with 2 minutes left on the clock. John DeBarro on the 61-13th for the time. And it looks like this is our second race, of course, this year in Japan. The Integrity Ignite Series already making their journey over. So for many of these drivers, this track won't be all too unfamiliar. They've got a little bit of experience that they can bring in, and if you've been with us in the Ignite series before, you know this is not a track that we have shied away from. In fact, we've been here time and time prior. Blake Cannon got the Ignite series victory, so he's in the field again. He might be one of the favorites to win it today, but it's been the rise of Ethan Lane, who has proven unstoppable as of late. He's going to be the driver that everyone has to beat, and he has the pole position while Sam Nieto is P2 at the line. No improvement there. He'll sit just ahead of Cody Smith and Zach Schrintenal. Zach is fourth, Jacob Fife P5, as we have just about 25 drivers registered to go racing today. Davis is one of the final of which, not to set a time, he'll be able to get one lap in before we go to business this time around. 40 seconds left on the clock for Davis. He's looking to beat a 37.435, which is a lap set by Ethan Lane. Of course, to get inside the top 10, he would have to be about 3/10 slower and make it in with a 37.763. Both Nicholas Ward and Nick Tarbuck tied for that time. Ward was just a little bit quicker according to official timing and scoring. And at the line for Jared Davis, it's a 37.698. So that will be good to break in for 7th place as the final driver to take a time. Ethan Lane is on the pole position once more, however, and your most dominant driver in the Octane Series has done it once again. Ethan takes P1 and collects another pole position at the Twin Ring Motegi as now we make our way toward your main event. 5 minutes of warm-up, and then we get going for our 125-lap feature. Ethan Lane, your championship leader by a firm margin, is back to the top of the board again, and with a quick time of 37.435, that is his 6th pole of the season. Drivers make their way out for the last few moments of any practice and warm-up to prepare themselves for the big show ahead. Brad Patton will be one of 3 drivers not to take a time, although he's on the circuit right now. It looks like his call not to set a lap was intentional, and so he'll find himself at the tail end of the field among 25 drivers contending for victory in Motegi. Inside of row number 1 is that familiar face with his 6th pole position, looking for what could be his 9th win of the campaign. Ethan Lane goes P1 in Japan with a qualifying time more than a tenth of a second faster than the next best. Ethan Lane grabs the pole. Sam Nieto in the number 2 car goes second place with a 37.582. Cody Smith is third with 37.63, and Zach Schrintenel is 4th place in the number 20 car with another strong qualifying run as Zach makes his way up into the conversation for top 15 in the championship points. To round out the top 5, Jacob Fife in the 36. Fife gonna have a strong night today for any consideration at the playoffs. Of course, he fell down 3 places in the championship last week, down to 9th in points now after not attending Sonoma. You'll have Woody Mahan in the 6th position for Woody, his best qualifying effort of the season. Then you'll have Jared Davis 7th and Ignite Series winner at Motegi, Blake Cannon qualifying 8th. Nolan Potter goes 9th and Nick Tarbuck finishes off the top 10 with Ryan Bean and Nicholas Ward 11th and 12th. 13th is Tom Wetmore with Nate Campbell 14th, Ross Cato 15th, and John Zabaro 16th. Bobby Keith and Matt Sisler are for 17th and 18th as the top 20 is concluded by Brian Yazik and Josh Gallagher in 21st. 22nd is Kyle Cooper, Eli Cars is 23rd, 24th is Brad Patton, and you'll see Aaron Eads in the 88 right beside him. Your final driver on the starting grid tonight from Japan is Randy Fayash. 13 rows, 12 filled, and 25 make the journey overseas. The pole sitter is once again your dominant man this season, Ethan Lane, looking to sweep the week as he finds himself up to the top of the board once again with a quick time undeniable for a P1. Again, 37.435, over a tenth quicker than the next best. With less than 2 minutes remaining, Ryan Bean, Sam Nieto, Brian Yazik, top 3 in this warm-up sesh. Brad Patton is 4th place right now, according to the timing sheets, so it shows that his qualifying was, of course, a deliberate decision not to take a lap. Not for a lack of pace anyway, but for an intentional lack of trying. Patton always getting the better out of the back of the field and trying to make his way up. It's an arduous process, but Patton is the only driver that's been able to make the difference and get himself up to victory lane based off that strategy. 2nd place is Sam Nieto in P2, still in this final practice session. Nieto was more than a tenth off of the pole position, and you gotta wonder today, will qualifying prove to be of importance? So far, the track temperature, oh my goodness, it was even warmer last night than we expected, which was a completely different race, mind you, but when we went at it last night in the Integrity Ignite Series, we saw a sizzling track temp in Richmond of 130 degrees, and we peaked out at 133. We are currently looking at 135 degree Fahrenheit temperatures that are expected to maintain all night long. So it looks like the drivers who benefited from the warm pavement last night, and it was really warm, perhaps the warmest we had seen all year, are going to get a double dosage of that same medicine. Ross Cato right now getting on for the final seconds of this run, but it looks like he will only be able to do very little in this last-ditch effort. Coming across the line, it is Ross Cato, but he won't be able to match up against fastest in the session, Ryan Bean. Bean sets the quick time in warm-up, and it looks like now, as practice and qualifying come to a close, the Bean team has something good to ride off of into the momentum of the main race. Here we come toward 125 laps and 188 miles from Japan. The Twin Ring is up next, and it's about time for your 25 starters to get back to business. iRacing official pace truck back in action. We've seen some new additions to the pacing fleet in iRacing recently. The newest update, seeing a BMW, which made its debut last Tuesday with us here. Looks like back to some of the more traditional outfits as Ethan Lane is to the point again. Lane has been unstoppable for the past month, and once this team gets going, Very challenging to shut them down. In his 14 starts, Lane is 8 for 14 in victories. That's a winning percentage of 57%. Relative to the entire field, he has a win percentage of 50%. That's 8 wins on his campaign, and the 16 races that we've run overall, of course, the last of which being Sonoma. Ethan now has a chance to go for more than a 50% win rate and match the pace he had last year, which he looked to be behind to begin the year. The early months, February, March, and part of April really didn't go well for him, but he has turned the dial up to 11 as of late and might be set to do it again. Track temperature, as we mentioned, is going to be scorching, now coming in at 131 degrees Fahrenheit. The warmth is a little bit less so than practice, but either way, tires will burn tonight as we anticipate a one-stop green flag strategy under ideal circumstances. More than likely, we're going to see drivers breaking it up into 2 stops thanks to how much tire wear we're anticipating to see. That depends on how these drivers perform over the first 40 laps, and if there's any real tire wear, then we might just see those calls made in through the 40s and 50s to come into pit road perhaps prematurely compared to our previous races at this venue. Blake Cannon having the winning experience last time by. Ethan Lane coming in again, looking to defend another victory and head back to the checkered flag for the 9th time this season. For the first time on Tuesday nights, we're racing internationally. Welcome to the Twin Ring Motegi. We are underway from Japan. Lane, Nieto, first and second. The entire field spreads out as we are back at the Twin Ring. As Ethan Lane did last night, he'll take the race lead through the opening lap. Only this time around, he didn't have to fight for it. He had the race lead to begin with, and so he keeps it. Tom Wetmore, 13th up to 6th, is the immediate biggest mover. The Tube Tech Chevrolet has sent it high upwards in position, and now it looks like Wetmore rides in 6th place. 7 places up relative to where he started. A remarkable early jump for Tom, who's only gotten himself a lap and a half on the racetrack, as is everyone else. And also, Ryan Bean now 11th up to 8th and carrying that speed he had in final practice. It looks like that reason to be confident already being illustrated. Nick Tarbuck following behind, 10th to 9th has gained 1. Nicholas Ward drops 1 spot back to the 12th position as Nolan Potter is now due to contend against Ward here. 3 Potters racing in the series, both series, shall we say, in the Integrity Racing League. It looks like today we've got Nolan, we had Ryan last night, Brock Potter going to be MIA on the day. However, today Nolan will carry the banner for the Potters, although Ryan is not related to neither Nolan nor Brock. It's interesting to see that again. Another Potter racing with us, and that's the week-by-week phenomenon. But today won't be double trouble for the Potters. Instead, Nolan running 11th. Nicholas Ward finds himself just ahead to take 10th right back. Tarbuck to the inside on Ryan Bean, swiftly looking to take that spot back for his own cause. All the while, Tom Wetmore, 13th up to 5th, has even got by Jared Davis. And so how's about that for a start to the race as the field comes across the line again for lap number 5. Comfortable start up in front for the leaders. Same goes for those in the mid-pack. And we're going to become very comfortable, I would say, for better or for worse, with the style of racing that this racetrack inhibits. Oftentimes, you notice that at the intermediate circuits, in America anyway, there's a lot of close racing, there's a lot of tight side-by-side, door-to-door action, and that just comes as a natural cause of how those tracks are organized, with high banking of more than 15 degrees, sometimes more than 20 plus, and of course a high speed and short back straightaway. Unlike that, the Twin Ring Motegi doesn't have as much banking through the corners, and it's clearly longer down the straights. And when we talk about the pavement, the banking all throughout this circuit, when compared to, say for instance, Charlotte Motor Speedway or the Kansas Speedway, noticeably lesser so. This oval circuit, well known for only seeing brief international participation. Of course, the NASCAR Cup Series coming to the Twin Ring facility for exhibition races in the late 1990s, but never giving the full circuit a full shot. 10 degrees of banking here throughout the corners at this oval configuration. There's a road course also on the property, but that's not where we're racing today. 10 degrees. Think about Charlotte, 24 degrees. So even though this is a 1.5 mile circuit, it's a lot less banking. Banking which is more comparable to the Milwaukee Mile or New Hampshire than it would be a Charlotte or a Texas or a Chicagoland. So that brings a different style of racing to the intermediates, which is often not seen. It's perhaps a higher speed version of the often isolation style racing of a New Hampshire or a Milwaukee, where a driver can't be going door to door consistently. You don't have the banking to rely on. You have the distance, yes, but usually in this situation, the distance honestly works to your detriment. 8 laps in out of 125. Ethan Lane and Sam Nieto are now spread apart by some 0.8 of a second. And so far, it looks like that gap has only expanded. 13th to 5th for Tom Wetmore has held out well so far, but Jared Davis is looking to take at least one spot in this grand experiment right back. Dropping low, here comes the 19. Davis has it made door to door. All the while, Blake Cannon, 8th up to 7th, watches. He's got the best seat in the house as his teammate is back on the defensive. Roadhouse Racing, double top 10 right now, and on the verge of a double top 5. Of course, Cody Smith is run away with 4th, so it's hard to get past the doorstep right now, even if Wetmore remains in P5. But Jared Davis is trying to knock him off the stoop. To the bottom, he's been there for a whole lap, still hasn't made the pass. Brock Potter briefly connected, and it looks like disconnected from the session, so he won't be racing with us tonight, but he did step by, for a brief moment anyway, to go at it. So perhaps missing the registration deadline on the night. Jared Davis gets by, now the teammates have to go at each other. Wetmore and Cannon, they'll be fighting for 6th. Nick Tarbuck now watches the teammates jockey. While the top 5 drivers look to be relatively settled, this is the closest battle on the racing circuit. Tarbuck to the inside, 3 wide for lap number 11. Looks like Cannon has to back off again. Tom Wetmore gets a more dominant surge into the corner, but even still, Tarbuck splits the teammates up. We'll see how much this plays to their detriment, because for the time being, it looks like Tom is comfortable to keep the spot, but down the back straight, not the best of exits. Kyle Cooper, the lone retiree, it looks like now 2 laps down in the 73. Let's see what happened here. Oh, contact. Got an incident on the field. Here's a replay for the Buckies, number 73. That is Kyle Cooper, 25th and last on the day. Kyle, the first retiree. Let's watch what happens. 12 laps in out of 125 here. Cooper retired at the end of lap 8, but it looks like the incident happened just beforehand. Coming through turns 3 and 4, oh, just getting loose up under him, and luckily not hitting Bobby Keith nor Matt Sisler, but you could see coming out of 4, loose in the rear end, and it gets the worst of Kyle. Now the field gets away from him, as you can see Randy Fiash moves through, but unfortunately for Kyle, that's a race ender, and he now finds himself 25th and last. Lane leads by a full second. The closest battle on the racetrack is a freight train from Wetmore in 6th, down to Jacob Fife in 11th. It's a very, very strategy-heavy racetrack. Green flag passing is oftentimes more difficult at this circuit than maybe you could say even at a road course. Road courses inhibit the type of racing which cause mistakes. Mistakes make for passes. We saw it at Sonoma last week, where Blake Cannon had to go through the field and gain 10 positions only to lose them all again. Or for Nicholas Ward and all the drivers around him who were jockeying for positions so actively because not a one of them could get through cleanly for a series of longer than 5 laps. At an oval like this, it's kind of the opposite. It's cyclical, it's hard to pass by the nature of the track, but not a lot of drivers are making those mistakes frequently enough to cause passes. You're not drifting up the track deliberately, nor are you doing it unintentionally. It's a lot like every other road course. Just run the line that you know and stay comfortable there. And that's another thing. Not a multi-group track. Very bottom heavy, and since it's a quick track where distance can be made up just by virtue of the power inside the engine, it's going to be a lot of single file, a lot of stringing it out, and then you just got to wait on the error, which rarely comes. But here's one from Tom Wetmore, and it's good for Nick Tarbuck. To the inside for 6th place. Tarbuck takes it. That's going to keep the teammates close, as Tarbuck now gets by the both of them. Nick qualified 10th. He's now up 4 places. So it looks like he might be going after that hard Charger accolade, while Tom Wetmore drifts back. He dropped 2 spots in the last 5, and it looks like from coming up to 13th, maybe he'll be brought back down to earth. We'll see what happens. Ryan Bean 11th up to 9th, up 2 on the day himself. It looks like so far just a little bit better than qualifying indicated. Green flag pace, of course, is the big question. He put down some of the fastest laps in our final practice, but that doesn't mean a lot when you think about it. In large part anyway, because we are not going to be seeing a hot lap competition to end this race. Unless, of course, we go to overtime, which is very much possible, but at the same time, right now, anyway, everyone's focused on the long term. I think that's going to be the mindset from the beginning of this race all the way to the end. Watch for the time being as Nicholas Ward goes high. Ward takes it up to the middle groove, trying to establish something there. Looks like a good run off the exit, but he lost a lot of time early. And I think as a result, going to help out Jacob Fife more than anything else. We'll see if Ward tries it again, but right now I don't think that risky call is going to be beneficial. So I wouldn't be too shocked if Ward backs it off for the next coming laps. $18 laps out of 125, coming toward what could be either the halfway point or the 1/3 marker for our first strategic call. Halfway is, by the numbers, possible. Ethan Lane, I'm sure he knows that now. 125 laps, which would come in at about 188 miles, means that you're going to look at a pit stop strategy that could take you 100 miles here. Now, that's a little bit more than what we usually see out of these drivers. 94 miles on the dot, actually, compared to 90 at the traditional intermediate. This track is a little bit longer than the majority of mile and a halves. It comes in at 1.549 miles, not just 1.5. So, because of that, and because of some slightly longer laps, these drivers are using up a little bit more fuel. It's going to be tricky to save those extra 5 or 6 miles. Might not sound like a lot, but when you think about how different this track is and the extra seconds, that will begin to bite into how strategy calls are made. So, the one-stopper is certainly possible, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see drivers, at least instantaneously anyway, considering the two-stopper, which would be a safer run down a pit road at about 40, then coming into lap 80 or so and finishing the race off. We got a lot of time until those decisions are made, of course, but right now, as everyone runs one by one, a good time to save, or it's a good time to work a little harder to make up positions. Right now, it looks like everyone's doing the former, and the latter might be all but impossible. 21 out of 125, Nicholas Ward, 12th up to 10th. Jacob Fife, P5 down to P11, 9th down to 12th, Nolan Potter. The qualifying game has seen some minor fluctuations, and the only driver from the top 10 in qualifying to fall out of the top 15, Woody Mahan. Woody qualified very well for 6th place, but it looks like now he finds himself P18 and pretty far off the main pack. So maybe something will come of that for the night. Of course, Mahan has a lot of time to recover, but it looked promising very early on, especially with a very good lap. The best that he's set in any of his Octane Series races. Qualifying-wise, that doesn't tell the full picture. And it looks like right now, unfortunately for Mahan, that comes to his detriment. Brad Patton is up 10 places from 23rd to 13th. Now, of course, not the biggest of field sizes we've seen all year, so for Patton to make the intentional call to skip qualifying makes sense. Makes more sense than usual anyway, but I don't think it's going to be helping him out all too much, especially because it is hard to make passes. The fact he's made up 10 from the back of the field, props due to the 7 team. He's now looking for his 11th, which would put him up inside the top dozen. Brad currently finds himself 18th in the championship standings. He finds himself about 100 points off the playoff picture, so lest he gets himself a few good runs back to back to back, and we're running out of time in the regular season to do so, very unlikely he makes the playoffs here. Patton is a multi-time playoff contender. Right now, it looks like huge issues with a 7 team points-wise if he wants to make it in. Not just consistency, but also great performances are going to be required out of Patton. 12th place, I don't think that would cut it tonight. Closest battle on the racetrack sees Ryan Bean now ahead of Tom Wetmore. And so it looks like Bean is now splitting up the Roadhouse Racers. Oh, Wetmore going to be slow again. Nicholas Ward getting right up to the back bumper once and twice. Whether it's Wetmore intentionally backing up the corners or if he's really running out of steam, Tom's prolific rise to the front of the field, so quickly passing about half the field ahead of him, is certainly coming to a close. Tom is now up 3 on his qualifying position in 10th place. Notably, track temperature is simmering down as we're now only seeing a warmth of 121 degrees from pavement to rubber. Ethan Lane across the line, 26 laps in. He has led every one of which, and the lead has only expanded for practically every lap. Last time through, he ran a 37.806. That was about 0.4 of a second off of his pole-sitting qualifying lap. Sam Nieto ran a 37.818. So the difference between those two in pace is very minimal right now, as Aaron Eads goes 1 lap down. Aaron will be the first driver to go 1 down on pace in the 88 car. As he comes up and across the line again, still little to be done right now for Eads in that Ford Mustang. Honestly, the only thing he can do is continue on with the pace he has. 1 lap down and maybe attrition will come to save him, but currently with everyone so spread out, I don't think anything's going to be making it through. Watch further back, Ryan Bean has gotten away, and as has Nicholas Ward from Tom Wetmore. Wetmore's now got to watch the backside because here comes Jacob Fife. Jacob is about 0.4 of a second away from Tom, according to the last scoring loop. He's about half that gap this time by, and it looks like Tom is in real jeopardy of falling back down to where he qualified in 13th because he's also got Patton and Nolan Potter coming his way. Jacob a little bit wider into turns 1 and 2, particularly off the exit there. Tom keeping it narrow. Last time by, Tom ran a 38.163, which was 1/10 of a second slower than Jacob Fife's .061. Big surge up high for Nolan Potter. Oh, he completely missed the apex. And Brad Patton's got himself some trouble coming off the corner as well. Big time loose, locking it down. What just happened? And he's going backwards here. The call on the field is a caution. playing back the lap. Something happened to both the 7 and the 34. The caution's out. Now, it started with our eyes on the Potter here in the 34, and it looked to be an isolated issue. We'll take a wider angle as he shot it so far into the corner. He ended up rocketing up. Meanwhile, ahead of him, Brad Patton. It looks like he wiggled out of 4, perhaps similarly to Kyle Cooper, and the yellow flag flies. But I just don't know whether there was something inside the cockpit that made it very difficult to save it, or if there was something else, because Patton has trouble, and so does Nolan Potter all of a sudden there. The caution's out for the first time. About a quarter of the way through, mind you, we should be seeing everyone at pit road. One final replay from within. Just looks like he hot-stepped it off the corner and lost control. Aaron Eads is going to disconnect as Patton and company now head to pit road. Ethan Lane takes the race lead, and he takes it by storm. From qualifying on, he has not skipped a beat as everyone comes down to pit road for what will be the first of an expected 2 pit stops now. This shifts up the strategy, means that it's going to be multi-stops tonight no matter what. Four tires and fuel's the recipe for all. Not looking to see anyone do it different. Lane, Nieto, first and second firmly. Cody Smith at the line finds himself third ahead of Jared Davis. Then it will be Nick Tarbuck, Zach Schrintenall, Blake Cannon, Ryan Bean, Nicholas Ward, and Nolan Potter, the top 10. Same leading two as practically the entire field gets on its way. Brad Patton will be one of the last of which off pit road, and it looks like for Nolan Potter, he'll continue on in the relative mid-pack. So a big shakeup at the quarter-way point of this race, and it looks like a green flag passing, to say the least. It's been difficult, and indicative of such, we just saw the yellow flag fall for an individual incident. Kyle Cooper, Nolan Potter, and Brad Patton, the first 3 to have troubles today. And it looks like with Patton, the yellow flag falls. One lap to green as we restart at lap number 33. Lane and Sam Nieto again the front row. "23 drivers will remain on the lead lap. Nate Campbell is the last of which." Oh, Campbell, we haven't spoken of at all today, but again, he's pretty important in this championship race. He's fallen back. He ran well at Sonoma, but not well enough to counteract Ethan Lane's clutch Sonoma victory. That being his 8th of the season makes the gap between your top 2 championship contenders 37 points. Nick Tarbuck right now has the advantage over Campbell and might move up to 2nd in the championship today, dependent on how far behind Campbell is of him. Green flags out. Ethan Lane gets the rocket launch. The mid-pack remains tighter, but again, the 6 car gets through. Nieto, Davis, Smith battle for the podium, and as they jockey, everyone goes double file behind. Jared Davis up top on Cody Smith. Blake Cannon with Nick Tarbuck here. 33 laps in at 125. Cannon finds himself boxed up top. Roadhouse Racing a little bit more of a split game as Tom Wetmore finds himself 11th again. This time around wasn't able to make those rocket ship moves, and perhaps he'll go for the opposite approach of laying back early and seeing what happens. Davis stays on the high side to Cody Smith. Blake Cannon gets just ahead of Nicholas Ward. Cannon is now up to P6, and Blake tonight, who qualified 8th, has gained 2 on the day to this point. He's looking for his 3rd as he goes under the Tarbuck car, and Zach Strinthal follows suit. Ethan's already put up a half-second advantage, and again, he has not lost the race lead for even a moment today. Watch what happens now as the mid-pack gets that second chance to battle firmly against itself. Having a pit stop cycle at about lap number 31, meaning that we will see one more pit stop today no matter what. If we remain green, the pit window will be around lap 95 to lap 105. That's going the distance. That's not what's going to happen. I would be highly doubtful that, unless we see yellow flag around that time, that's not going to happen. What we will see is an accelerated pit stop window, which means that from laps 75 to 85, we're probably going to see drivers go in so they don't worry about burning out their stuff too long, and so they don't worry about having too little time to go the distance again. What's going to happen from here on out, depending on how long we go green, but it's very likely this is a 40-plus lap green flag stint. Ethan Lane, of course, understanding of just that as he watches Sam Nieto, Jared Davis, and Cody Smith all behind him. Lane sets the tone, sets the pace, and for the most part tonight, he will set the strategy as conditions continue to fall further into the driver's favor. The lowest track temp we've seen all day long, coming in at 119 degrees Fahrenheit, still sizzling by all accounts, but from 135 plus, it's a miracle for the drivers that the tires won't be burning to the same degree. 3 extra tire sets available for every driver in the field today, most of which have already used their first, which means 2 sets are left for what is anticipated to be a 1 pit stop game from here. So nobody should be in jeopardy to go the rest of the way. There's Ross Cato. Cato had a strong race last week in Sonoma, was able to keep himself 13th in points as he is now only 8 back on Tom Wetmore and only 13 back on Nolan Potter for what could be 11th place in the title race. Cato not too far back on the upper echelon. He just needs to make those slow but steady steps to keep himself in the mix. Right now, however, both Wetmore and Potter have him beat on the racetrack, especially Potter, as Nolan finds himself in the top 10, although Ryan Bean would very much like to change that. Ryan is still chasing after Nolan Potter, but it looks like this time around the advantage is clearly with the 34. That was a 37.572, which was about a tenth and a half quicker than Ryan Bean's .712. Just a small difference, it might seem, but those tenths make a lot more of a difference when you consider the bigger picture. And of course, it's a very big picture. It's a big track, a little bit bigger than the American Intermediates. And that makes it more challenging than ever to build that momentum and gain. Richmond last night was the perfect example of how to get momentum going, and you really feel the flow when you're in it. I think to the exact same degree, you need momentum in Motegi, but you don't feel like you're in that flow. Richmond is a great track at bringing the corner speed into the straightaway speed and doing that continuously. Even a track like Charlotte, which is, by all accounts, the de facto example of an American Intermediate, You feel the speed getting off those corners at a 24-degree banking and piling into the front straightaway, getting it down to the inside or as close as you can go, and heading off for the next corner. You feel that. Even if the front straightaway isn't banked inward, you know that you have that speed and you know when you're carrying it. Motegi doesn't necessarily give that feeling, and I think that's where drivers find themselves lost in the mental game of racing here. Feel sometimes like you're aimlessly setting laps and you can't really tell what's going right or wrong unless you really have yourself cued in, paying attention. Fife on Wetmore, this will be for 11th. With a tighter inner radius through one set of corners, most similar to Darlington, that's perhaps the only fundamental difference that the Twin Ring Motegi has from corner to corner. As you take a look, it's turns 3 and 4 which are tighter. 1 and 2 are a little bit wider here, but unlike most mile-and-a-half tracks we visit, they don't have that elongated oval shape. That is something usually reserved for either the sub-mile tracks, even the very short circuits, or maybe the lone exception being Darlington. But Darlington is ridiculously narrow, and it is a one-grooved racetrack. Motegi isn't one-grooved. Of course, you see a lot more than just the bottom groove, but everyone likes to be down low. That is a fact. And Jacob Fife has been using it well as he tries to keep up with Tom Wetmore. Just hasn't worked out yet for a pass. All the while, Ryan Bean and Nolan Potter are still only about 3 car lengths from one another. Camry on Camry, Camaro on Camaro behind, both are the closest battles on the racetrack as Fife peels to the inside once again through 3 and 4. Wetmore holds his ground, thinks not of going down for an errant block to the inside, and I think that's the best thing you can do with defense. You got to be pretty passive with it, honestly. Maybe that's not the best way to think about it, but unfortunately, for many a driver, you find yourself making more mistakes with aggressive defense. Sometimes you got to let it go, and it'll help out. I think for Wetmore, that just worked out because here comes Brian Yazik. Yazik almost got there on Fife, dove deep, only for Jacob Fife to recover, and Wetmore again has himself a little problem. For third place, we got a close battle. It's about a 10th and a half separate. It's Jared Davis and Blake Cannon. Neither of which have been able to act upon one another just yet. We'll keep our eyes on those intervals and keep the focus on the closest racing. Of course, the race lead still not much of a contentious fight. Ethan Lane has spread the lead now to 0.8 of a second and looks on pace again to spread it for more than 1 second across the line in the next coming laps. Fife low. Tom Wetmore maintained the upper low groove, which was about the second line on the track, and it cost him. Passive defense can only get you so far at times because Jacob Fife made a very active effort to cut through, and he will take the spot. With Jacob breaking by, Tom Wetmore watches Yazik and Patton become the next big thing on the racetrack. Brad has gotten himself back up to 14th place after the incident he had prior hand. He was involved and was perhaps one of the main proponents of that first caution, in which he got loose out of 4 at about lap 30. Now, nearly 20 laps after the fact, he's in about the same position he was previously, and he finds himself coming up on Yazik again. It's about a 10th and a half between these two drivers as they come toward the 50-lap marker. Lap 125, when it'll all be said and done, currently Yazik in the 55 watches and waits. Brad Patton ducks down low. Side by side, advantage Yazik. He's just got it down the front straight by virtue of being on the high side. A little bit of a better pull off the corner, but 10 degrees of banking can only take you so far. Patton dives low again. Same level of wear on the rubber. The only difference would be whether or not a driver saved him right. And I think right now, with Tom Wetmore getting backed up into the battle, Patton wants to go for a double pass. 3 wide into turn 3. Yazik backs off. Wetmore surges ahead. That will drop Brian back, but Tom Wetmore is still in the crossfire. Brad Patton surges through. 2 passes, 1 set of corners. Brad Patton up to 12th place, and he finally breaks into the top dozen. Nolan Potter and Jacob Fife in a battle up in front. Potter still with the upper hand on Jacob here for the final position in the top 10. Jacob has not yet been able to pull through. He's gotten pretty close to Nolan, but with that track position off the restart, the edge has been with the 34 team. Oh, Zach Schrintenau very loose that time by, and luckily he'll be able to save it. Watch this. As we pull back the tape, what just happened to Schrintenau? It looks like Zach perhaps getting loose on his own accord, and that gives way to a Ryan Bean pass. Ryan is going to go to 8th. Schrintenau now is running in 12th. But here's why that happened. At the time of the incident, Bean was still pretty far behind entering turn 3. And it looks like the trickiest spot on the racetrack tonight has been the exit of 4. And that was the case again. Loose on the way out, had to back it down severely. And now Zach finds himself running outside of the top 10 in 12th currently. Brian Yazik and Tom Wetmore joust amongst each other. Yazik just a little quicker. The 14th place man in Tom Wetmore falling back, and it looks like unfortunately he hasn't been able to match that early race speed. The best laps of the race so far for him have been those first 10. 2-time race winner this season, while Wetmore has been able to return to victory lane in the 2025 campaign, perhaps with it has come the compromise of less consistency. Tom is 12th in the championship standings, and I think if he put up numbers more similar to last year, he would find himself closer to about 7th in points, in that bottom top 10 range. The wins at Daytona and Charlotte have been lifesavers for his championship cause, of course. Checkered flags, which are hard to revoke and, of course, very important in the championship picture. But also, the problem is that for the wins he has races and finishes outside of the top 15. And those are very hard to respond to if you're not consistently up in the top 5 or the top 10, which has become Wetmore's weakness, that consistency in the bottom sphere rather than the upper part. Brad Patton coming up on the top 10 here. Jacob Fife, P10, still running just ahead of him. Tom Wetmore has Ross Cato heading his way. And for Ross, if he wants to take 12th in the championship, he would love to make this spot a reality. Potter falls behind Patton. That will get Brad up to P10 as he chases after 9th place now, Jacob Fife. Each and every driver running amongst themselves. Patton with the particular job, of course, of going for the back end to make it so. Coming across the line, it'll be 70 laps remaining from this point. Ethan Lane leading by about 1.8 seconds at the line here. While Ethan Lane has not missed a step up in front of the field, you also got to give a shout out now to the man who's in second place, because Sam Nieto has not at all faltered. Lap after lap, moment after moment, he has remained as consistent in second as Lane has in first. Now, of course, I think Sam Nieto would love to be the guy up there leading, getting the job done on his own accord, but when you look at him right now, I don't think that he would want to be anywhere lower than where he currently runs, and he's doing a pretty good job of being the next best in this race. He doesn't have the biggest gap to those behind him. So far, not a driver has been able to touch him in his current placement. Nick Tarbuck here, 4th, trying to get back up to Jared Davis. The battle for 3rd has been rather subdued in this run. Nicholas Ward, 12th to 6th. has gained 6 places on the day. The biggest mover is up 13 in Brad Patton, then up 8 in Brian Yazik. In the top 10, you've also got a 6th place mover, Ward and Nick Tarbuck, both of them making 6 spots. 3 places is Ryan Bean, 11th up to 8th. He was just outside the top 10 in qualifying, and it looks like the pace so far in the race has been better than initially indicated for the 26 crew. Close battle right now for 21st. That'll be Eli Cars and Josh Gallagher. Take a look aboard the 96 car and see what's going on. Even at the tail end of the field, things are tight, but watch up in front. Jared Davis sees Nick Tarbuck surging down low. Davis will have enough to fight down the back straightaways. It looks like he gets a good run off the corner once again, but Tarbuck has the advantageous bottom groove. Leaning on each other, it's door to door. Nick to the inside, and that's all he needs. P3 looking for 2 consecutive podiums. Nick Tarbuck. Matt Sisler recording and reporting he's got wheel damage as he heads down to pit road. He's going in for an unscheduled pit stop. 6 minutes of damage. It looks like he's out on the day and will retire the 93 car. For Matt, that is 23rd. And it looks like that will be it. Was the damage very recently recorded here? Or is it something he's been dealing with? He just signaled to box in. Matt was running in the mid-teens at the time of the incident, and as he comes through 1 and 2, looks like he was already slowing down, and the wheel damage had got to him by that point. Matt retires, Eli Cars gets by, and the 93 car out of the way. Caution's out for the second time at lap number 61. Nolan Potter the cause. Let's take a look and see why. After another 30-lap stint, the field is at a standstill, so it looks like our yellow flags have been coming in quite the cycle so far. 30 laps of racing, and then we back it down. This still could be the final pit stop cycle of the day. However, it looks like that's in jeopardy as well. Mathematically, the field can go the distance of just under 65 laps, but that's the entire second half of the race. Out of 4, loose. Same bump that Patton hit, same bump Cooper hit. Minor front end damage. He taps the wall, and Nolan Potter brings out the caution. Yellow flags out for lap number 62. Ethan Lane has led the way for each and every lap. I think it's going to be a no-doubter. The entire field heads in again. Let's watch now and see what happens. Piling into pit road. All but one in Tom Wetmore. Wetmore will choose to stay out and lead the first lap he's had all day long. Interesting call. He and John DeBarro stay out. Everyone else heads in. And that is the field from practically end to end. Wetmore trying to get in there for some bonus points and lead 1 lap. That's going to break the streak for Ethan Lane up in front after leading the first 62 consecutive. Nevertheless, he'll win off pit road pretty firmly as Sam Nieto follows with Blake Cannon, Jared Davis, Cody Smith, Nick Tarbuck. Tarbuck over Smith, then Nicholas Ward and Ryan Bean concluding the top 10 as the remainder of the field gets on the way. 63 laps to go. We are halfway there as you're watching coverage live on FTN Broadcasting. Next broadcast on the week is going to be Saturday, and it'll be Saturday night, courtesy of our friends at Cal Off Dice Racing, and we'd like to thank them for their continued support of FTN Broadcasting. The Underdog Racing broadcast is brought to you by Henry Caloff, and it's a monthly podcast that features some of iRacing's rising stars. We'll be right back after a message from the URP and Caloff Dice Racing, and we'll bring to you the rest of tonight's action with 61 laps to go. Keep your dial set on FTN. We'll return after this. You're watching the Integrity OCTANE Series from the Twin Ring Motegi. Wetmore, DeBarro the front row, Lane the winner off pit road.
Welcome to the Underdog Racing Podcast, where we talk to NASCAR drivers from all over the great country of America. Each week, we chat about the latest races, share stories from the track, and get to know the drivers behind the wheel. We break down the action, hear from drivers about their experiences, and dive into what drives them to keep racing. Whether you're a longtime NASCAR fan or just curious about the sport, this is the place for you. So tune in to the Underdog Racing Podcast, your inside look at the world of NASCAR. Catch us every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern.
"62 laps remaining, coming toward now only 61. We're going to head back green. Tom Wetmore is going to be in control with Anthony DeBarro to his high side. We'll see what happens here. Both of these drivers are on older rubber, so for them to be up in front, it's a particular risk that nobody else in the field has decided to take. Now, to figure out whether or not it's the right call to do it just like them. Here we go. 61 laps remaining. Tom Wetmore gets the jump. Ethan Lane nowhere close, but for Tom, we'll see if it lasts any longer than its first lap. Green flags out. Blake Cannon surges to the inside on Lane, and we're back in business. So quickly, Lane gets a jump on it, only for Blake Cannon to be quicker as he gets up to his teammate. Blake jumps low, new race leader. Last time we were in Motegi, he got the job done, and he's up in front again. Wetmore falls, but Cannon rises, and it's Blake Cannon to the race lead with 60 laps remaining. Now it looks like Ethan Lane's got himself some competition, and we'll see how long it takes for him, if he can even do it, to thwart the enemy up in front. Wetmore beside Tarbuck. Sam Nieto is with Nicholas Ward, and these drivers remain right alongside each other, toe-to-toe, neither with an advantage just yet. Gap for the race lead is 2/10, and these might be the most exciting battles of the whole night here. Keep in mind, again, that we could go the entire distance on just one run strategy-wise, and this could be it. Drivers have themselves set up to go the distance if absolutely necessary, but I think that if you're looking at the field up in front here, well, they'll be fine to do it. It's at the mercy of the field behind to see if we can stay clean and green. Davis down low. Ward surging in the middle. He'll get ahead of Sam Nieto, but ahead for long? Maybe not, because Nieto takes it 3 wide middle. Jared Davis on the bottom gets the better of both, and Sam will take a spot out of it. Ward real close to contact with Ryan Bean. Side by side, here comes Brad Patton. Watch what happens now for the number 7 car, as he's gotten himself a chance for the first time to battle from the single digits through the single digits. Wetmore loose and low. And you can take the full lap back and see what happened, but Tom falters from up in front. Mind you, this was the battle for 4th place. He had the edge. Doesn't look like he's got it any longer. Maybe a little bit of contact from Davis, but I don't think that's what set him loose. He got off the corner that way, and now Tom drops back down to 12th. And one way or another, he has found himself in the mid-pack, It looks like he found a new way to end up in that very same location. Ward to inside on Sam Nieto. Brad Patton watching on the both of them. Brad has the anticipation of getting into the top 5 while the battle for the lead heats up. Gap is now 12 100ths of a second. Nick Tarbuck in P3. Nick is in a very familiar position of where he was last night in Richmond, watching, just hoping he could get up to Ethan Lane, but it wasn't quite. Cannon now has himself that position up and ahead, and he did a great job of using that restart to take it, but oh, Lane and Tarbuck alike, they both bobble. Matter of fact, all 3 of them did. First and foremost, it was Blake out of 2, but in reaction, you saw some quick responses from Lane and Tarbuck alike. Neither of which were necessarily the best reaction either. Caution's out again, it's the 3rd time. Yellow flag, and it looks like it is Brad Patton. This will be your 3rd caution of the day with 55 laps to go. Wondering if drivers are going to stay out and save, or if they're going to take the safety route and head in. This could be the deciding point of the race, strategically speaking. Watch this. Patton was up in that higher groove coming through turns 3 and 4, and it was Sam Nieto who got bumped up into Patton that causes the trouble. Oh, it was Nicholas Ward, Sam Nieto, then Brad Patton, and Brad ends up stalled out with the worst of it. One more time from on board the 7 car. Unfortunately, he had a great view of it as it happened, and he was just in the spot where there was no way to get out. Nicholas Ward, lowest of all. And shot up high goes Brad Patton. Nevertheless, as the field regroups, you'll see many a driver going down to pit road, and it's a split strategy call. Cannon last went down to pit road at 63, but from 16th on down, which is Bobby Keith and company. Everyone else just decided to go in. Here's Bobby. He will be leading with them Tom Wetmore, John DeBarro, Randy Fiash, Sam Nieto on pit road as well. The majority of the field decides to go out on the track, but it might be the most consequential decision of all for Tom Wetmore to take nearly 10 lap fresher rubber. Wetmore's had that trouble in maintaining a top 10 placement all day long. A decision like this could prove consequential, and of course big time to his benefit. We're coming to 1 lap to green this time by. Ethan Lane beside Cannon. For the first time, Blake getting a chance to lead a restart here. Winning our last event at Motegi earlier this spring, and getting a second chance to lead. So far, from getting the jump, he has not relinquished it. Nick Tarbuck, Nicholas Ward will follow Cannon. Ethan Lane's outside introduces Jared Davis back into the fold, and Ryan Bean. Split strategy call. Watch out for 17th place Tom Wetmore and the guys behind him, including Sam Nieto. Nieto getting back on the way in 20th. With new rubber, he's also on the lead lap. 22 drivers still with us. Matt Sisler, Aaron Eads, and Kyle Cooper, the only retirees. Rest of the field remains fighting for victory. Pace truck dips in. Cannon with his restart heroics last time by. did a fantastic job of taking the lead. Now to see if he can defend it. Green flag's out, 53 laps to go. Lane blocks Tarbuck. Nick goes lower. Second place is as red hot as it gets. Blake Cannon has what he needs, the advantage. Everyone else follows suit. .52 laps remaining. Watch what happens here for the mid-pack. Brian Yazik ducks to the inside. And for the better part of this race, Brian has been in the bottom range of the top 10, which he still is now, but it looks like the top 5 conversation has opened up for him. Garrett Davis watches here. Nick Tarbuck gets a little while closer, but Ethan Lane is all over Cannon again. The pass for the race lead, if there is to be any, could happen real soon. The caution is out for the now 5th time today. Well, let's take a look. Lap number 75. And trouble brews. Hatton with DeBarro. And we'll see if this was the moment of impact, as it was just ahead of them in Woody Mahan. Mahan slides to the inside. Luckily, as he does so, he gets out of the way of everyone else. But the 49, with his best qualifying effort this season, had another problem. Ross Cato was to his inside, but it looks like that was not the issue. Instead, the issue was the wall. Mahan slips out of line and brings out the caution with 50 laps to go. Everyone's together. Cannon very close to maybe losing the lead. Again, he still looks to be confident with his defense. Not a problem yet for Ethan Lane. .50 laps to go. Coming again toward our green flag racing, which will bring to an end this race. We'll restart with about 47 laps left. If you've enjoyed tonight's coverage so far, of course, and you like what you're seeing with tonight's racing, check out iRacing.com, the world's leading virtual motorsports simulator, and it's been that way for now more than 15 years for good reason. iRacing.com is head and shoulders above the rest with licensed projects with NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, the World Endurance Championship, and many other disciplines. Summer's beginning, and there's a lot of time to head on to the racing sim and get your reps in for league racing or officially sanctioned competition. Visit iRacing.com to learn more and register today. Thank you for watching coverage of the Integrity Ignite Series from the Twin Ring Motegi. We'll get back to work with less than 50 laps to go. But until then, here's a word from our friends at iRacing.com. We'll be right back after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Cannon in the 44, Lane in the 6. Among each other, they've led the most laps of any two drivers. Of course, that comes easy for Lane, who's led already more than 60. just under the mathematical marker of leading more than half this race. He would only need to lead one more lap to get that accolade, but since we've already seen other drivers split it, he has led the most laps today. Blake has now held Ethan Lane off in his first attempt. We'll see if he's successful this second time around. 47 laps to go as we get back to business from Tochigi, Japan. It's a spread out behind. It's a real big spread out behind. Zach Shrinthal takes it to the bottom deep. But your leaders, well, same as prior, if you're up front, you get away clean. Ethan Lane drops to the bottom, and so quickly it looks like he's already got that shot in the arm, and he's ready to take back the race lead. 46 laps to go, that time by, Cannon led by 29 thousandths. And once Ethan Lane is in his groove, it is almost impossible to stop him. Here we go again, clear out of turn 2. And it didn't even look like much of a battle. Ethan Lane wanted it, took it once more, and Cannon is once again runner-up. Watch further behind, Brian Yazik with Jacob Fife. All the while, Zach Shrinthal is ahead of Nolan Potter and Ross Cato, Tom Wetmore, Brad Patton, all of which are coming with each other here. I'll tell you what, it's tight. 45 to go now. Now, for everyone involved in this race, no matter what strategy call they're running, they all should be able to go the distance on fuel. That isn't a concern. The cautions and all the saving of fuel during the cautions means that everyone should comfortably at least have a lap or two under them to make it to the checkered flag. With that being said, the question becomes tires. 45 laps to go. Take a look at who went when. So far, the top 10 is dominated by what we would call the old tire brigade. Tom Wetmore will be the first of the new breed with 72 laps being when he last went in. That was about 10 laps ago, mind you. The field ahead of him went in about 20 laps ago. Wetmore so far hasn't shown any drastic advantage in getting up to Ethan Lane or any of his company ahead. So you gotta wonder, was that call worth it here? Again, Wetmore is now back up ahead of where he qualified, but he's been in this sort of 11th to 15th place stalemate all night long, and it really looks like he's found no way to beat it. He's only found more ways to end up in the very same place time and time again. Almost a little bit of a stalemate, perhaps, on the racetrack with his own driving. Cannon is keeping Tarbuck at bay here. It is second place for Blake Cannon. A little bit of a slam on the wall there for the number 4 of Nick. Nothing too serious. And through 3 and 4, they'll head again. A little bit of a difference as to how these two are approaching the corner. Blake Cannon, maybe a slightly wider arc inward, and he ends up hitting the same point as the apex, while Nick Tarbuck is firmly down to the paint throughout the entire set of corners. Jared Davis 7th up to 4th, gaining 3 on the day. Nicholas Ward in 5th, Ryan Bean 6th, Yazik now 7th. All single file here. Watch further back. John DeBarro coming up on Nolan Potter. DeBarro very slightly moving up the track. That's going to end up being some contact. Door to door, but briefly. Nolan sends it up high. John DeBarro this time by surges through. We'll see if that run down the front straightaway saves him. Take a look on board now with 34 Potter here. That time by a 38.243 for Nolan Potter. It was a 37.898 for John DeBarro. Several tenths of difference. "39 laps remaining, and the home stretch is for real here. I don't think we're going to see anyone doing any extreme saving right now. If you take a look inside the cockpit of any driver, I mean, Ethan Lane has already pulled a second up on the field. There doesn't seem to be any sign of stopping as to whether or not a driver wants to push, maintain, or gain an advantage. Yaz in the number 55, 19th to 7th. He's the biggest mover right now. He and Brad Patton are going toe-to-toe for that accolade. As right now, they have both made up 12 places. The advantage for Yaz is that he's made up 12, and he's gone from 19th up to a higher spot in 7th, relative to 23rd to 11th. Tom Wetmore, 10th place. Zach Strinthal, 9th. Battle for the single digits. So for Wetmore, maybe the top 5 isn't unrealistic. It would require him to be at this same pace the rest of the race, but moreover, the top 10 seems to be not only salvageable, but what's currently going on for the Tube Tech team. Fans of the chat room, if you've got any favorite drivers you would like to shout out, make sure to let us know. We'd love to hear who you think is going to get the job done, as the odds have been in Ethan Lane's favor all night, but that doesn't mean anything because 37 laps to go isn't white flag racing. It isn't the checkered flag either. Anyone here still has a firm opportunity. 22 drivers on the lead lap, most of which with undamaged equipment. As long as they stay together, they should be good to go. Nicholas Ward 5th, Ryan Bean 6th. Gazzy again still holds it ahead of Jacob Fife here. Blake Cannon and Nick Tarbuck 10th to 3rd for Tarbuck, 8th to 2nd for Cannon. In total, they've gained 13 places, and it's interesting because they're juggernauts at the front of the field week by week. Very infrequently do they have to gain like that. Big move there for Nick. 2nd place. He's competing directly against Nate Campbell today for 2nd in the championship. The gap between those two is 12 places on track right now. It's 13 points in the championship. Campbell is most likely going to end up losing a spot in the title race. This was the battle between Drucker and Tarbuck last night, and it looks like for Nick, the tale of two very similar races as he aspires to move up the championship ladder in both the Octane and Ignite series. The only driver so far in modern era of the Integrity Racing League to be eligible for both the Ignite and Octane championship in one championship week. That was last year. He finished top 5 in points in both series and was a remarkable contender all throughout. His consistency has been able to keep him up in both championships because right now he doesn't have a win. And after this week, if he stays ahead of Campbell, he would be the highest position driver in points in both the Ignite and Octane series without a victory this year, which of course, a great season. But the checkered flag, the cherry on top, which every championship contender wants, he doesn't have it yet. And he mentioned to us, and I believe it was last night, Daniel Hemricking his way to the championship. A victory is more than likely going to be necessary to win the title just because the championship race, the best drivers getting themselves prepared to a higher extent. That's most likely what's going to happen. Yes. But otherwise, the other 29 races of the season, you don't have to win to make it to the final round. It's not mandatory. You can get there without finding the checkered flag first, but you really do have to win that final race. Just based on the point system and how it all runs down, to not win that race would be perhaps the biggest and most detrimental blow to any driver's campaign. Just a matter of fact, in that circumstance, you can't afford to miss the 30th race. The other 29, you could finish second the entire season, win the last race, and that is a more realistic path to the championship than, say, for instance, being a consistent driver and having some wins and finishing horribly, Outside of the fact that the final race, of course, is the be-all, end-all, it's game over if you don't finish well there. Ethan Lane, 30 laps to go. This upcoming time by Yazik defending on Jacob Fife. Take a quick look as Fife is there. They're side by side so quickly, you can't even get a look on the backside because Jacob is there again. For 7th place. Dropping low, here comes Fife. Jacob so quickly makes that move that Yazik wasn't even able to respond through 3 and 4. Jacob is looking for 2 big nights. Tonight needs to be real good for him, of course, in the 36 team, but also next Monday, which will be several weeks from now racing-wise. When we get back to business in the Ignite Series, he's got his work cut out for him outside of the top 15 in points. Here, he's still 9th in the championship and holds firmly a ticket to the playoffs. But a big mistake in this series could also send him all the way down. "29 laps to go. Jared Davis in the 19 car, a quiet 7th to 4th. Davis is, well, even though his car has changed quite big time this year. He went from the all black to the all white, and it's quite noticeable. He's a quiet driver on the racetrack. 16th in points. He's made 16 starts, but he does have a victory to him in the Ignite Series. Now here, he doesn't, and by all accounts, maybe we would expect a little bit more out of the 19 team, but he's been caught up in misfortune. Davis is a reputable sim racing competitor. No question about it. He's got one of the highest I ratings in this series. He's got the accolades outside of here. You might know the name Jared Davis, and you might have never watched a stream with us here before in FTN. He's got that type of credibility. But it's also just competing against the field here. This field is not made up of fully well-known drivers, but that does not mean they're slouches. Guys from leading, where Ethan Lane is, to 15th can realistically win. We've seen your 14th place driver, Ross Cato, come away with a clutch win and finish second in the championship. We've seen Cody Smith, who finds himself right about as far back, also win. Tom Wetmore in 12th has multiple wins this season, and Sam Nieto, he has multiple wins in his career. He's running 19th. That's the thing about it. Even if you're a reputable driver, and we're talking about the points here, doesn't mean that you're going to come in with the accolades and the attention and the understanding of how good you are and burn the field down. The only driver that's done that, I want to say, isn't even Ethan Lane, because Lane was very subdued. He wasn't the most noticeable driver in his 2023 appearances. Granted, he was strong, but he didn't tear the field down immediately. Michael Araya in his rookie campaign absolutely did. And Ethan Lane, of course, in 2024, well, he won 14 races. And Lariah won 10. So it takes a special kind of driver, a special type of talent, no less, to come up in the scene and burn it down. But even when you do that one year, you're not going to be guaranteed to do it again. Michael Araya has been held winless through 17 racing weeks, when at this point last year, he had 6 wins. Just goes to show, nothing is a guarantee at this level of competition. Looks like the only guarantee is Ethan Lane wants win number 9 more than anything else. Fife runs 7th. 25 laps to go. Brad Patton, 23rd to 9th. Now, coming up on Yazik, who's gained 9. Nate Campbell sees Zach Schrintenall briefly grab the wall. Quick move for P10. Campbell hasn't had the best of races, but a top 10 finish will be enough of a salvage job to keep it basically dead even for third in the championship. I think Campbell here is a rookie now coming into those growing pains as a driver who burst onto the scene so well and proved immediately he's got the stuff. I mean, he's got 4 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and the big thing for him is the 2 stage win he has collected so far. Top 10s, he's one of the best in the league outright. He is one of only 3 drivers with 10 top 10s, and that's the consistency that makes a champion contender, of course. Ethan Lane has 11 top 10s, and Sam Nieto, right now, only has 7 and 4th in the points. Tarbuck is the leading man in top 10s. He has 12. The peripherals for Tarbuck are just about as strong as anyone. The only thing for him, again, is the lack of victory, while Lane has done it now more than anyone else. Coming across the stripe for 22 laps to go, we're going to get loud from Japan and crank it up with Whiplash Sim Cams. Thank you for tuning in to FTN Broadcasting's coverage from the Twin Ring Motegi. It doesn't matter if you're racing in America or overseas, Whiplash Sim Cams has the best iRacing cameras on the market. And with more to come, of course, more updates season after season, there's no better place and there's no location best to trust besides Whiplash. Thank you again for your support tuning in tonight, and thank you to Pit Stop TV for welcoming us in the Whiplash SimCams family. With 22 laps to go, let's crank it up from Japan and go overseas loud and proud. Ethan Lane now has just over 15 and a half laps to go to finish the job. Out and in front for the Twin Ring Motegi, the entire field at this rate has settled on two things: where they are and how their strategy is going to play out. It looks like everyone understands that this will be the run they end on as Tom Wetmore dives to the inside of Zach Schrintenel. Wetmore has again found his way back to 13th place. "15 laps to go. This time by." Watch further behind, and it's going to be a big spread. I mean, 21 drivers on the lead lap. Woody Mahan is still with us, but he's 4 laps down as he just went down to pit road here. It looks like that might be the race ender for him. Otherwise, tonight has been encapsulated largely by the racing that we expected to see. 14 lap to go marker sees Lane further out than he's been all night since the first 30-lap run. Ward in P5, Davis P4, Blake Cannon then in third. Take a brief look in perhaps the closest battle on the racing circuit, DeBarro and Schrintenol again. See if we ride on board with John DeBarro and pick up any pieces as to how he's making his moves. He's right on the back bumper, but hasn't yet gotten the pass. Schrintenel that time by sees the yellow flag as the entire field slows down again. Caution is out. And once more, we find ourselves pacing. So late in the going, and it's another yellow flag. Brian Yazik. Yazik bringing out the yellow flag here. Let's see why. It looks like he should be good to continue. But you see the problem there for the 55. I mean, it's pretty clear. He's spun sideways. Through 1 and 2. Most drivers have gotten away cleaner than 3 and 4, but just like that fourth corner, loose off a bump and drifting down. Brian Yazik, lonely man involved. And the front straight actually cleans him off and sends him downhill. We will have just over 10 laps to go, if that, when we go green. Everyone's down to pit road for the final time tonight. This is how Blake Cannon took the race lead last time around. He was great off the short run. Ethan Lane cannot afford a mistake as he's at the head of the pit road call. He's in smoothly, as is Smith, as is Nieto. Now on the way out, Wetmore and Nate Campbell just barely get the jump on Ethan Lane. It's Nate Campbell to the race lead. Tom Wetmore second, Ethan Lane third. Tarbuck, Cannon, Davis, Fife. Then Ward, Patton, and Ryan Bean for the top 10. 2 tires for Campbell and Tom Wetmore. They take first and second. Before we head green with 10 laps remaining, we'll bring you some promotional message from our friends live on FTN. Nate Campbell just took the race lead, and we're getting ready for the most exciting portion of the race. We'd like to thank our friends that are responsible for tonight's coverage. Thank you for tuning in live on FTN Broadcasting. We'll be right back after this with just under a dozen to go. This is it. Campbell takes the race lead for the first time tonight against the juggernaut Ethan Lane.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang. NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang. Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.
11 laps remaining. And time is running out. Nate Campbell, Tom Wetmore. For the first time, these two drivers are back in business. We're going green this time around. It's going to be 10 laps to go. Just coming back from a pit stop cycle. And you won't miss a thing under green. And I think we've kept that way from the beginning of the jump. And we're hoping to keep it that way till the end. Any caution after lap 120 will bring us to overtime. And now we're ready to go back at it. Green flag's out. 10 laps to go. Nate Campbell, Tom Wetmore, Ethan Lane. Lane already surging down to the bottom side. Wetmore drifts up top while teammate Cannon goes toe-to-toe with the 6 car. Tom Wetmore still side by side with the 45. Watch what happens now. The pressure's on. The 51 and the number 45 respectively, both taking 2 tires. Everyone else looking for a full set of 4. 9 to go this time by. Ethan Lane down to the bottom. He's got Nate Campbell now right ahead of him. And it'll become right beside as into turn 1, Ethan has the lower groove. That's been the preference all night long. And it looks like once again, it's the right place to be for a driver looking to make a pass. 3 wide now, 3 wide middle goes Lane. Cannon watches behind. Who's gonna give? It looks like Wetmore. Tom gets to the bottom, nearly contact with Lane. Ethan goes up the track. So does Nate Campbell. Blake Cannon is still watching, and he'll go side by side with his teammate. 3 wide for the lead again, but only briefly. Cannon keeps his underside right below Lane. It's door to door through 1. No room for error, no time to back down. Nate Campbell has the oldest rubber in this fight. He'll be the first to fall, but Cannon, rejuvenated, has Lane on the inside no more. He'll take the middle. Nick Tarbuck watches both. Watch what happens now. Nick so close to the battle. Ethan Lane shoots up top. Blake Cannon now gets a car length over Lane, and with only 7 laps to go, it's the most important gap he's had all night long. Campbell falls back to 4th. Tarbuck side by side with Lane. Watch what happens here. Cannon has an advantage. Is it enough? Blake has been the best off the short run these first 10 lap stints. That's how he got the lead before. Lane has led more than 70 laps today. I'm sure he would feel beyond slighted to somehow find a way to lose it. 6 laps remaining. We're coming up on our overtime threshold where anything from this point onward, any interruption of the racing flow, is a green-white checkered. Ethan is closest, but Cannon has the edge. Roadhouse Racing is split 1st to 8th. Tom Wetmore again falls back, and it looks like some troubles for he and Nate Campbell, both of which on 2 tires to take it for track position, now facing some of the consequences of it. 1/4 of a second. That's the difference between Cannon and Lane. 5 laps to go this time by. Blake Cannon across the line, 37.091. He was about 6/100ths of a second faster than Lane, and it looks like it's far from a fluke. Cannon might just have the stuff to pull through and return to victory lane. For Blake, this would be his first win of the season. He just has to hold on now toward the final stretch. Ethan Lane forced to the middle of 3. Ethan Lane, of course, knowing as the caution flies, there's one last chance. And we will be headed to a green-white checkered finish. Biggest reset possible. Watch this. Horrible news for Blake Cannon. It was Nicholas Ward. And he got pulverized on the way in. Watch this. Four to go. Coming to 3. So as Ward ran side by side with Ryan Bean here, contact? Oh, Bean came back up into Ward as they made that first contact and up into the air. And he got a good 50 plus feet of airtime as the motor blew. Game over for Ward as he will now be 21st, and that's it. No way you're getting that car back on the racetrack, and even if you do, you're not getting it fast enough to get back on the lead lap. 4 to go. For Cannon, that was the best shot he had at winning, without a doubt. Now, I don't believe that this means Lane is automatically going to have an advantage, even still. The big problem is that for Lane, it's still the short run. The tires have not warmed up yet. And as that's the case, it means you're probably going to see a little bit more from Blake Cannon on the jump. He's gotten them every single time up and ahead on those launches. And so far, even though Lane's been able to get him on the longer stretches, Ethan Lane has missed beats compared to Blake Cannon, who has been flawless so far on those critical jump starts. Three laps to go. We will only have 2 laps remaining when we go green. It looks like this is going to count as our very first overtime attempt on the day. With that being said, we will have 2 left available, which means any yellow flag from this point onward will extend the race. So, this first attempt is going to break into the extra bank. The checkered flag lap now is lap 126 by virtue of this slight extension. Just 1 lap the difference for our first overtime run of the day. 2 laps. If we get to the white, race over, and it will be official on that cycle. If not, we could go up to a triple overtime. Yellow, number 7. Nick Tarbuck remains in the podium, but watch now as his biggest race rival, Nate Campbell, is right behind him. Campbell will start behind Tarbuck as we are set to go back at it as we go for our first overtime attempt of the day. So the battle for third in the championship is going to be a little bit tighter. The advantage is still with Tarbuck as they run, but Nate will not be blown out the water tonight. He's fought this hard. I don't think he's going to give it up in his next 3 miles. Cannon, the ace on the short run, the defending winner at Motegi versus Ethan Lane, who's led the most laps on the night. Advantage Cannon as they go back up to speed. 2 laps to go. Tarbuck pulls Cannon out in the head. Your top 2 drivers have not won a race this year. Lane is looking for his 9th. Back of the field gets away fine. For second place, Tarbuck is going to be right up there with Ethan Lane. Lane is boxed up top, trying to go clear for P2. Still can't get there. Coming to 1 lap to go. If we make it to the white, this race is official. Lane is still on the high side. Tarbuck has not let him go. 1 lap to go. Lane clear for second, but Cannon has a quarter to work with. Into turns 1 and 2. The biggest challenge of all for Ethan Lane will be to make that 1 pass for position. He qualified on the pole position and has not yet had to deal with this in the clutch all night long. Both Cannon and Lane nearly making contact. Lane has no choice now but to prioritize the defense. 17 races into the season, we wouldn't have expected this to be the first for Blake Cannon, but a long-awaited run has finally come to pass in both the Ignite and Octane Octane Series, Blake Cannon and Roadhouse Racing win from the Twin Ring Motegi. The champion of Japan for 2025, Blake Cannon. The first driver to sweep an oval in both series. Blake Cannon had to wait to the last moment. The restarts played in his favor, and when they're on level tire tonight, nobody could get those first 10 laps done better than this man right here, and that's exactly why he's a winner again. Cannon returns to the site of his last victory and proves that the Twin Ring is his domain. Blake Cannon leads 24, Ethan Lane leads 95. I mean, first and foremost, look at the numbers on those two drivers today. They led a total of an unbelievable 119 laps. We raced for 126. They led 94% of laps all by themselves. Nick Tarbuck came away with that final spot on the podium for third. Then you'll have Jacob Fife fourth, Jared Davis fifth, Brad Patton sixth and seventh place. Of course, Tom Wetmore. Wetmore able to salvage some spots in that final run and make it out of the mid-teens. Eighth is Ross Cato. Great race for him in the fight against Nolan Potter and Wetmore alike. Cody Smith, P9. Nolan Potter, a top 10. Critical as we head toward our summer break. Then you'll have Ryan Bean, Sam Nieto, John Zabaro, Bobby Keith, and Nate Campbell for the top 15. Campbell led 3 laps. Moreover, Josh Gallagher in 16th. Zach Schrintenall in 17th. 18th goes Brian Yazik. 19th, Randy Fiash. Eli Cars, position number 20. 21st on the day. Then and there is Nicholas Ward. Woody Mahan is 22nd. Matt Sisler, 23rd. Aaron Eads, 24th. And Kyle Cooper rounds out the top 25. The 25 drivers that we had register and race today put on a remarkable performance, and once again for Roadhouse Racing, it looks like this track has just come their way. Now, Blake Cannon did not do it in the same fashion when we were in the Ignite Series. If you watched with us there, that race was entirely dependent on a long green flag run. We didn't really have that many breaks in between for drivers to have any sort of chance to do what we did today. Split up the strategy multiple ways, get those restart impulses. We had so few breaks, in fact, that Cannon was just able to run away and run home to the checkered flag. It looks like tonight maybe a little bit different, but the same race winners. So why not we get a word from a first-time winner this year in the Octane Series for the second consecutive year, and he's one of only 4 drivers with the opportunity to even say this. He's won in both the Ignite and Octane Series. And that is something that comes with a lot of effort and maybe even more so than we can imagine. Today for Blake Cannon, while he led more than 20 laps, it didn't come easy. But the short runs were his, and he made the most of the final that we got. Blake, you've won here from Motegi in both series in completely different ways. Welcome back to Octane Series Victory Lane for the first time this year. Great momentum to take into the summer break.
Yeah, really good momentum. I mean, man, I was off all night. I mean, practice speed, qualifying speed, even race pace, I was off. So I honestly, if you'd asked me before the race started, I probably would have said I'd been lucky to run top 10. So I don't know. I just fought and clawed and all night and was probably the most patient I've been all year in this race. And I was letting people go and just taking my time, and everything just fell into place. So, man, what a race.
It looked like today was the battle between the long run and the short run, and it was pretty clear that when we were on the level tire of that fresh rubber off of pit road, you had it. Midway through the race, you made it very clear, dove on Ethan Lane early, showed that flash of speed and brilliance to take the race lead and get away with it. Ethan ended up getting it back, but those final cautions in the last 25 laps, difference maker. So, it ended up playing out in that route again. What did it take to really seal the deal this time? Ethan got you the first time around, but he didn't get you when it mattered.
Just being patient. I mean, when I got the lead the first time, I just overdrove. I mean, I did good. The restart, I got the lead, and then I was able to hold him off for another run, and then we had another caution, and I just overdrove the entry to 3, and he was just able to get around me. So, I remember that the second time around when I was able to get by him and just hit my marks and didn't overdrive. And at that point, once he's trying so hard and, we're on low fuel, so already a little tight and in dirty air, I mean, it just played into my advantage. So he had the car to beat. I think Nick Tarabuck was also a close second. If not, maybe if that last run goes green, he might have had something. So I hate it for Ethan, but, I've won and lost races, when I dominated too. So he still finished second, so there's nothing wrong with Silver.
And so, making it to victory lane here, it's been a solid season so far, first and foremost. And top 10 of the championship running, you've had some time up front leading the points. Your P5 as it stands, and it looks like you're going to jump up to 4th based on this race. Now, with that said, the question becomes, when we come back from our All-Star break, the next time we go racing is 2 Tuesdays' time. That's the All-Star race. Next on the schedule after this one, we're going to go racing again, and it's going to be New Atlanta. Anything goes and anyone can really win there, but to ride home to the end of the regular season, points, positions matter. So what's it going to take for you to maybe keep the good times rolling at one of our wildest circuits?
Just luck. When I was at Atlanta for the Monday night series, I put myself in a good position. I just made a mistake. So, just cleaning up your races is really, and not making any mistakes is going to be, the biggest thing, because you make one mistake with these guys and you're going to lose a bunch of spots or have a bad run. So, and like you seen last week at Sonoma, I had a terrible race. So got to clean that up, got to get solid finishes. Like tonight I was comfortable with running 3rd. So I think finishing where my car allows me to finish instead of over driving and pushing the limit and going from running 2nd or 3rd to 7th or 8th is a big deal for me.
Back on top, and a meaningful victory at that. Blake Cannon, winner from Motegi both trips this year, and making the most of it now for your first victory in the Octane Series for 2025. If you got anything else you'd like to let us know, shout outs or comments, the time here is all yours.
Just got to shout out everybody at Roadhouse. They've been behind me the whole year and, really stuck with me even, when I've struggled and made a lot of mistakes. So hats off to them for keeping my head in and, continuing to give me what I need to win these races. Just got to put it all together. I got to thank you and everybody on the broadcast and everybody on our Integrity Racing League. These cars and this track and this setup was by far one of the hardest we've had all year. And, I think the guys showed that, everybody can do it and got the talent that we race with. So, shout out to all them guys. And, I forgot to mention my wife last week, so I'm going to shout her out and Canon Creations, and we'll see you after the All-Star break.
Back to business from Japan, Blake Cannon, the winner in both overseas trips. Thank you for your time here, Blake.
Thank you, Dave.
And a rare off finish over the last few weeks for Ethan Lane. And of course, he was chasing after that 9th win to keep that 50% plus win ratio on the season going. He falls right under that category again, but either way, another top 5 run for the 6 crew, just bested off those short runs at the very end, Ethan, 2nd place.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was short runs. It was a good race up until 10 to go. Where for whatever reason every week in both series we seem to have this problem where with 10 to go we have a caution, and then it's chaos. But that one hurts. Especially after coming here after the Xfinity series and then us dominating tonight. And losing out just barely there. It's not what we wanted. We were going for a 9th. But it's good points night, but should have had more.
And the difference you mentioned, of course, how it changed up. 10 laps to go, or thereabouts anyway, yellow flag, overtime finish. But the long runs, we saw the pace once again. 95 laps led, the most by a wide margin. You led almost the entire first half consecutively. Twin Ring is a hard track to pass at. Not like any other intermediate here. It seems like clean air was a huge differentiator.
It was, I think, but even when we got back in second, whenever Blake got in front of us in the middle of the race, we were able to get right back by him after like 5-6 laps. So it might have been a lot worse depending on like where you were at on the track, but man, that one hurts. That we have a 2-week break, excluding the All-Star race. We'll come back and try to get that 4 win in a row mark for this season. We've come close 2 or 3 times now, or 2 times, or 3 times now, but it just hasn't worked out.
And when we talk about going for wins consecutively, it's hard to set that tone at our next track, New Atlanta. It's a gamble. It's much like Daytona, much like Talladega. You really don't know what you're going to get, but there's one similarity between this track and that circuit. It's pretty hard to pass, at least relative to most other super speedways. Maybe an opportunity to start the streak again?
Maybe. Atlanta is one of those wild card races, which is kind of glad that we don't have it in the playoffs. I know we have Daytona, but we'll see. It'll be easier to pass in this car than the Xfinity car, just because of the side draft and everything. So we'll see how it plays out. Track position will still probably be a thing, and who knows how it's going to be with the dirty air. We might actually get spread out depending on that.
Leading the Octane Series Championship as we head toward our All-Star break and All-Star race. Ethan Lane, 2nd place on the day before summer vacation. Ethan, anything else you'd like to let us know here?
Just thanks to you for putting this broadcast Monday and Tuesdays, and everyone of Integrity who puts these races on. It's not easy work, but yeah, good run.
P2 on the day for the 6 crew in that Toyota Camry. Ethan Lane, runner-up from Motegi. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And over the last 2 days, today, yesterday, 2 drivers go for back-to-back podiums. And it looks like for Nick Tarbuck, he finds himself again with a critical podium finish in the championship race. This time around, fighting for 2nd in the points and putting a few points up on Nate Campbell. P3 was all you needed to return to the podium once again and make a flip-flop in the points for the 2nd day in a row.
Yeah, man, P3 is not too bad. I think I had a chance to do a little better, get a P2, but maybe even P1, but we'll take a P3. It's podium, but just a little bit, I don't know, man. This one feels a little bit worse than most of them because I feel like I was catching Ethan pretty decently there at the end, and really just gets a little bit annoying at these late race restarts that get triggered, and then it just turns into a complete caution fest at the end, and I don't know. It's a little bit disheartening, but the result's still good.
And from beginning to end here, fighting up at the front of the field, but qualifying, again, having to dig from 10th place. Challenging to pass, and when we started this race, the track temp was warm. Drivers were being caught out on the exits of corners. That caused the majority of our cautions, but handling-wise, were there any particular challenges you were facing inside the cockpit?
Yeah, for sure. The exit, well, I mean, in general, the car felt really tight and it would snap loose if you drove it a certain way. But when you finally got it nicely on the bottom, which is where I found the most speed, like on the white line, you could just kind of save a bit more tire, be a little bit nicer, and you'd end up getting some speed and passing people. And, I got pretty decent restarts when I needed to. I ended up not really screwing up on pit road too much, which was nice. So, I worked my way up there, and I think I was definitely faster than probably everybody on the long run. I mean, especially at the end there, I was catching up to Ethan. So, from 10th, it was not a bad thing, especially in this car. But really, the key was just being super gentle on the right rear, I think, out on the exit. So you had, you could actually get off the corner, and just trying to find clean air, man. It's tough in this car now, but 10th to up to second at one point, still pretty good.
Back up to the podium again, and you mentioned just a few tenths off. Actually, less than 0.2 of a second off the opportunity for P2 there, which is great momentum for the second day in a row. We tell you this much. All-Star break, All-Star race coming up next. So we're heading toward our final brief intermission before the regular season comes to a close. I think the biggest goal in your mind in this series is similar to what we're saying on Monday nights, the victory, which is the icing on the cake for any championship contending season. You practically have yourself a regular season to playoff ticket punched. But a victory is never so guaranteeable.
Yeah, no, I really would have liked to win tonight. I think I had the best chance tonight to win out of any race so far this season, except for maybe Rockingham, but I didn't make it like a lap in that race. But the speed was there, just didn't survive. But yeah, it would have been nice to win tonight. Even last night, I had a good shot. So I think momentum's picking up. I think I'm starting to get the hang of stuff a little bit for some reason. So hopefully coming into the later half of the season here, I'll get a win. But just hanging with guys like Ethan and Blake and a lot of the guys in the super high I rating, at their level, it's good to be that competitive for a guy who doesn't do it often. So if I can get a win, that'll be great. But just trying to keep up with these guys is tough.
Just 2 positions away from knocking off that checkered flag and adding to what's already been a great season. In the fight for P2 and the points after this one, Nick, any final thoughts you'd like to leave? The floor is yours.
Sure, man. Well, I want to thank you, as always, for putting on a great show. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks to the admins for putting on a good race. Thanks to my mom, my dad, my wife, boys back home, they tuned in. And, we'll see you guys for the All-Star race.
Nick Tarbuck, 3rd place from the Twin Ring Motegi and back-to-back nights sitting in the podium. Thank you again for your time, Nick.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
It took us a little while to get here to Japan, but the racing didn't disappoint for our second vacation overseas. Nick finishes 3rd, and it is then Ethan Lane who finishes P2. Blake Cannon, the winning man after all of that. 8th to 1st, the short run ace, and those final restarts in the green-white checkered really fell in his favor. Now we have 2 weeks off the racing in the points-paying conversation. We're off next week entirely for the Integrity Racing League. We come back to our All-Star race in 2 weeks' time to kick off July. It's the 8th of July, as a matter of fact. We don't know where we'll be racing yet, but we know we'll be back on the 8th. So until then, for fans of the Octane Series, tune in at 9 p.m. EST, July 8th. Same time, same place, live on FTN Broadcasting. For today, however, you've been watching coverage from the virtual Twin Ring Motegi in Tochigi, Japan, 17th race of the 2025 Octane Series, and I've been your host, commentating and producing, David Kreutz. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you have a fantastic night. Congratulations again to Blake Cannon for his first victory on the season, and we hope to see you back when we return from our summer break.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
Welcome to the Underdog Racing Podcast, where we talk to NASCAR drivers from all over the great country of America. Each week, we chat about the latest races, share stories from the track, and get to know the drivers behind the wheel. We break down the action, hear from drivers about their experiences, and dive into what drives them to keep racing. Whether you're a longtime NASCAR fan or just curious about the sport, this is the place for you. So tune in to the Underdog Racing Podcast, your inside look at the world of NASCAR. Catch us every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang. NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang. Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.